wasn't like, that sounds good.
Good morning, everybody. We'll get started in a few minutes. We'll give people a minute or two more to join, and then we'll get going. Thanks for joining us this morning. How's it looking, Laura? People still joining?
There's 65.
Okay. All right. Well, yeah, I don't know how many people registered, but they'll be able to view this in on the website afterwards if they miss anything. So we'll go ahead and get started for the sake of your time. Thank you for joining us timely this morning. My name is Peggy Zink. I am a board member of Impact 100, and I'm responsible for nonprofit outreach and helping you all through the application process. So we'll be going through just an overview of the overall Impact 100 process, as well as what is specifically in the LOI. Just for the sake of understanding who all is in the audience, how many of you have done an Impact 100 LOI in the past? If you can use the raise your hand button, because I can't see all the screens, but I can see. Okay, looks like we got to have a decent number who have, and also a number who haven't. So welcome to those of you who are new to Impact 100, welcome. And for those of you who are repeat applicants, welcome back. We're happy to have you. Like I said, we'll go through the LOI process. Joining me also today, Laura Fiddler is helping to moderate the discussion. And Janet Collins is on, and she is also on the board and is overall responsible for our grants process and is the vice president of our board. So they will also be helping me join. And I think we have a few other Impact 100 members in here as well, but welcome to everybody. All right, let me also ask you to mute yourself so that we don't have any background noise. And we are happy to take questions while this is underway. So if you do have a question while I'm speaking, please either use your raise hand button or use the chat. And then we'll stop periodically, or Laura will help moderate where to insert the questions as they come up. But feel free to ask the questions, and then we'll also have time at the end for you to ask questions as well. All right. Kate Bothwell, I see you have your hand up. Do you have a question, or is that still a hand raised from previous? Okay, great. All right. Well, let's just jump right in. As you know, this session is being recorded and will be available on the website for review if you want to see it later. All right, So we're going to go through a basic introduction of, We're going to go through a basic introduction of Impact 100, go through the letter of intent process, and then talk about the specific content required and ultimately how to submit the letter of intent. All right, so for those of you who are new to Impact 100, just a little bit about us. We are a collective giving society of women, and our vision is to be a significant catalyst for creating an equitable and thriving community for all. Our mission is to dramatically improve lives in Greater Cincinnati community by collectively funding transformational grants that make a lasting impact. So we actually, as a group of women, all contribute money, feeling like our money can make a bigger impact when we pull it together than when we just decide to distribute it individually. So that's really the philosophy of this. Our values, we in addition to helping to grant great organizations funds to make an impact in the community, we also are striving to educate ourselves how to be informed philanthropists. We provide opportunities for our members to learn about philanthropy and learn about the nonprofits in our community. And I will say that's one of the things that our members really value as an opportunity to get visibility into all the great work that's being done in our community and finding ways to engage beyond just giving money. We do collaborate within our membership and within the community. We embrace diversity, equity, and inclusion. I'll talk a little bit about that later. Aspire for quality and excellence in all we do, and assure that 100% of our membership dollars go directly into grants and awards. So we do not have a staff. We don't have all of the work that's done to make this happen is all done 99% by volunteers. We do raise a little bit of extra money to fund some administrative costs, but 100% of what we as women members donate goes directly to the organizations, which is the money that ultimately you get when you are a grantee. So we are the Impact 100 Cincinnati is the founding chapter of Impact 100. There are Impact 100s all over the country now. So the impact of Impact 100 has been very expansive in that sense. There's over 50 chapters around the world that have invested over $50 million. And our chapter alone has granted over $6 million since we were created in 2001. Actually, I think it's probably more than 6,500 now because of the grants we just gave in 2023. We are 400 plus philanthropy-minded women. Each woman donates $500 to $1,000. And then we engage jointly in various ways through being involved in the LOI and application review process, financial assessments, communications, volunteering, many, many different things. But our members do like to be involved. And we'll talk a little bit more about the grant review process and how our members are involved in that. So these are our focus areas. So when we think about the areas where our collective giving group wants to make an impact, these are the areas we support. So we support initiatives under the culture umbrella, education, environment, preservation and recreation, family, and health and wellness. So it's pretty expansive. There's a lot of nonprofits fit into one or more of those categories. We will be asking you to select the one that you are most aligned with when we get into the LOI. Before I get into the actual process, do you have questions about Impact 100 in general and who we are? Anything so far? You can raise your hand or drop it in the chat if you do. All right, let's get into the grant cycle timeline. So now is November. We're in the training cycle, launching the LOI process. The LOI is now live on our website. You'll see a button that says, a blue button that you press to access the LOI. That will be due on January 4th. So we'll give you plenty of time. I know it's over the holidays, but you also have plenty of time to get it done before the holidays. So, you know, some people, we used to have it due before the holidays. I think some people who do like to work during the holidays because it's quiet and they can get a lot done. So for us, we're not going to do anything with it until after the holidays. So we made the deadline after the holidays. So Plenty of time. Use your time as best works with your schedule. Also, at this time, as an organization, we are renewing our membership. So we start our membership year in January. So we don't know yet exactly how many members we will have and how much grant dollars we will have until everybody opts into membership and new members come on board and so forth. So in January, we will finally know exactly how many members we have and how much, what level they're contributing at. And then we will be able to announce how many grants that we will be giving. We've been giving $400,000 grants for the last, I don't know how many years, probably 5 years, 6 years, something like that. I think there's a decent chance it'll be 4. Who knows? We aspire to get to a point where we have 500 members and are able to do 500 or 5, not 500 grants, 5 grants of $100,000. But we will know kind of where we stand in January. Then during that time, our grant review teams, GRT is a grant review team. So our members who want to be involved in reviewing the applications get assigned to committees, and we divide up the LOIs, and we go through the process of reviewing all the LOIs and selecting which ones to move forward. So that happens during January and February. Then notification will go out in February to everyone, and you will know whether your LOI has been approved to move forward or whether you stop at that point. Those that are approved to move forward are invited to submit a full application, which is due in March. The full application has, more in-depth questions and gets into the financials quite a bit more. And then those then go back to those committees where those full applications are reviewed. And from there, the next step is the site visit. So some subset of the full application submitters will be selected to move forward to site visits. Others will be notified that they are not moving forward. That will happen in the April timeframe, and then site visits will occur in April and May. We also have a committee that's called CIRC. We call it CIRC internally. It's the Community Investment Review Committee. So it's a committee that's specifically focused on looking at the financials of the applicants. So for those who are selected for site visits, the CIRC committee will do a more in-depth look at all of the financial information that was submitted, including the project budget. And additional questions may be asked and answered during that time. From the site visit step, some subset of those will be finally selected as the finalists. And the finalists will go forth to the board to be ratified. And then we have a big event announcing the finalists. It's a pretty big deal to be selected as a finalist. And then the finalists go through a process of building their pitch and being able to make the pitch to our collective 400 plus members. And those members then select the final grantees, number to be determined, but somewhere between 3 and 5 probably. Those final grantees will be selected and announced at the September award ceremony. So we're in November now, and we don't find out about the grant until September. So it is a long process. It is a competitive process. We have 400 plus, more than 400 women involved in many different ways in this process. So it does take some time because of the level of engagement we're getting from our members and the thoroughness of the process that we want to go through and need to go through to make the best decisions about how to invest our dollars in our community. So it's very different from many other grant cycles. I should say, I'm going to back up for a second and give you my background. I was the president of Cincinnati Works for 13 years. I retired in 2022. And I've been through this process once myself, and our organization has been through it twice. And so it is very different from many grant processes that you go through from the standpoint of this large number of people who are all involved in making the decision and so forth. So it does take longer. It's a lot more competitive than most grant making cycles I've been through, but it is gratifying and rewarding. I hope for those who are engaged in it. So just to kind of give you a visual of how this works, we start with a letter of intent. So it's a funnel where we're narrowing down, collecting a wide number of letters of intent that goes to full applications, then site visits, then finalists, then awardees. So, you know, it's a narrowing process, a very deliberate and thoughtful narrowing process involving the members of our organization using the criteria that I'll get into in a little bit. So just one important reminder, this January 4th deadline, please keep that in mind. You are absolutely 100% more than welcome to submit it as soon as you get it done. So if you get it done next week, submit it. If you get it done before Thanksgiving, submit it. Don't worry about waiting, and please don't wait. But January 4th is the final deadline at noon. Any questions about the grant cycle and timeline? As you, I will also mention that as you get further in the process and get to the point where you're selected for site visits, you know, that does involve some time on your part beyond just filling out the applications. That's where it really gets into a lot more hands-on time. We actually come to the site and meet with staff and learn about your program and see it in action. And then if you're selected to as a finalist, then it's a lot more of a commitment. Coming to the Meet the Finalist meeting, preparing the pitch videos and the pitch content for the final membership selection, coming to the award celebration. So it's a lot more engaging and engaged commitment when it gets into the June through September timeframe. So just keep that in mind. Okay, moving on. What are the qualities of a strong proposal? So these are the characteristics or the criteria that we consider as we are evaluating both the letter of intent and the full application and the site visit for that matter. So what we're looking for, first of all, the project itself that you're proposing. Is there a compelling need? And is the solution that you are proposing believable in terms of meeting that need? And does it seem clear and does it seem viable? So we're looking for both the need and the solution to the need, which is the project you're proposing. From an organization standpoint, we're considering, are you the appropriate organization to be addressing that need? And so you'll want to be giving us some content and some information that says, yes, we are the ones. We should be doing this more so than anybody else because of this. And then also we're looking for confidence in your ability to deliver. So you'll see some questions, not so much in the LOI, maybe a little bit more in the application about just what have you delivered in the past and how successful has that been. We're looking for transformational impact. So that's really important. We are Impact 100. We're looking to make transformational impact. So we are looking for initiatives and programs that are new, bold, innovative. We do not fund existing programs. So we're looking for those programs that are taking the next step, either expanding a program, starting a new program, implementing something new and innovative that will advance your organization to the next level. We're looking at, from a DEI standpoint, we're looking at first, are you proximate to the issue and the people that you're serving? So you'll see a question in the LOI very much worded similar to that. And how are you advancing DEI in the organization and the community? So there'll be questions along the idea of, even, how is, when we talk about new, bold, and innovative, also along those same lines, like how are you addressing systemic change to address inequities in the community? If you've got, if some of the things you're doing are attacking that head on, you'll want to make sure we know that. And then finally, from a financial standpoint, in the end, we're going to go in depth in the financials, especially when you get invited to do a full application. It's a lot of financial information that you'll be supplying. In the end, what we're really trying to look at is, how are we confident that you will be good stewards of the Impact 100 funds and be able to deliver on the goals and objectives that you are trying to achieve. All right, so just eligibility criteria. So you must be a 501c3 or 509A, must provide services aligned with one of those 5 Impact 100 focus areas. Again, those are very broad, so I think a lot of you won't have a problem fitting within one of those. The proposed program or project needs to address a community need, must operate for a defined duration. We're not looking for short-term projects. We do want long-term projects. In some cases that will be ongoing. That's great. Has defined measurable goals. We look at services in the 10-county region. So we very much invite Northern Kentucky, Eastern Indiana, and the southwest counties of Ohio to submit applications. And in fact, this year we had one grantee from East Indiana and one grantee from Northern Kentucky and 2 grantees from the Ohio area. So we are looking broadly across the region. We will accept proposals that are capital, startup programs, technology, or program expansion. So in some ways, this is also a unique opportunity because there are not a lot of funders who will take both capital and program proposals, but we will. And we are equally fine with funding a capital or a technology project as much as a program project, as long as we believe it's contributing to transformational goals and objectives. And then ultimately, the $100,000 grant will need to be used over a 1 to 3 year period. So we'll get into the timing piece a little bit later because that can sometimes be confusing. What we don't fund is recent grant recipients. So for any grantees who received a grant from Impact 100 in 2020, 21, 22, or 23 are not eligible to apply at this time. They have to wait for the waiting period. Impact 100 does not accept grant applications that are for endowments, current operating expenses. Again, we're not interested in funding current programs. Although if you are expanding a current program, then or adding on new services to a current program or things like that, then that would be appropriate. We can't fund partisan activities, completed projects, individual churches, though we will fund faith-based programs, indigent care subsidies, travel loans, and we will not fund individuals, obviously. Funds cannot be re-granted to another nonprofit organization, but we do accept collaboration. So if you are doing a collaboration and some of the funding will be used with another organization, we just ask that the primary organization do the grant, apply for the grant. We will ultimately need financials from both organizations if other organizations are going to be using the money. But that's more of a partnership, not like a re-granting situation.
Peggy,
okay. Yeah.
Peggy, we have a question in the chat. Do you consider applications from organizations that have 501c3 fiscal sponsor?
And I responded to that. This is Janet. We will accept the fiscal sponsor as the applicant on your behalf, but it would have to be the 501c3 that would be the one applying.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right, so we'll jump into the LOI and the different sections of the LOI. It starts with organizational information. This is the general like contact information and all those basic things. Then we get into the project or program proposal. And then you'll see, and this is where you'll see this alignment to the criteria I mentioned earlier. So we have the project, the transformational impact, the DEI, organization, and financial. So those are the 5 categories of the criteria we talked about. And so you'll see when you get into the application, it's organized in this way. So we'll go through each section. In organization information, it's all the basic like contact and mission and vision. We ask for the operating budget, the mission. We only ask for mission and vision once, even though it's on here twice. I don't know why that is. The mission and vision, an overview of your core programs and services, and then the alignment. Will have you select which focus area you are aligned with. I will say throughout this, the idea with a letter of intent is brevity, right? So we don't give you a lot of characters to go on about a lot of things. So we're asking you to be thoughtful and concise in your various, this is 500 characters for this kind of stuff is fine. When we get into some of the more narrative stuff, we aren't, again, they're going to be kind of short. From the project standpoint, we're going to ask you for the title of the project or program you're submitting, what kind of request it is. Again, these are the types of requests we are accepting: new initiative or project startup, expansion of existing program or project, capital, and technology. The counties will ask you which counties are served by that project or program, what issue or community need you are addressing. Again, we really want to focus on, what's the problem you're trying to solve. 1,500 characters, be concise, and then briefly describe your project or program in 2 to 3 sentences. So that's just the snapshot of what you're trying to do to solve that community need. So then we get into transformational impact. So how is your program transformative and addressing community issues at a systemic level? And then how many individuals do you plan to impact or engage with the project or program? And we're looking for, both depth and breadth, or depth and or breadth. So if your program is going to serve like lots and lots of people, that's great. If your program is only going to serve 10 people, but it's going to impact them in a very deep and transformative way, that's fine too. So don't be shy about that. Tell us, exactly how many and how deep, how broad your impact is going to be, and that will make the case. From a DEI standpoint, the question that we're asking on the LOI is just to briefly describe the demographics of those you serve. And we're looking not just at race, it's all the different things, especially if you're an organization that's serving people with disabilities, then that's the key thing you want to hone in on. But in general, just anything that you can say about the diversity of or the demographics of those you serve, and then how disparities among those populations are addressed by your program, by your organization overall. It doesn't necessarily have to be for the one particular program that you are proposing. So this particular question is about the organization overall and the broad set of programs that you might be delivering. And then we get into from an organization standpoint, just where does this project fit within your organizational strategy and vision? So we're looking a little bit at, how are you thinking about your organization going forward, and what is it about your future strategy or vision that is prompting you to undertake this project? And then from a finance standpoint, what we're focusing on for this one is really the project budget. So we're not going to get into your organization finances. We asked the question at the very beginning about the size of your operating budget, and that's it. For this LOI, we're really trying to understand the project that you're proposing. So here's the thing to keep in mind. The Impact 100 grant can be used over 1 to 3 years. And so when you think about a budget, what often gets confusing is you might be submitting a 1-year budget, but thinking about using it over the Impact 100 grant over 3 years, and that can be confusing. So what we're asking you to first think through is what time frame do you anticipate using the grant? So if you're doing a capital project and you need money up front, you might say 1 year or 2 years, right? If you're doing an ongoing program and you're also applying to other funders, you might be spreading our dollars out over 3 years, right? So be thinking about like the time frame that you anticipate using the money. And if you're not sure yet, just say you're not sure yet. But then also be thinking about the total budget for the project or program over that same time frame. So again, if let's say you're doing a new program you're anticipating it's $100,000 a year, right? And you're thinking, okay, I'm going to use the Impact 100 grant over 3 years because I'm also applying for funding from other organizations, right? So I'm going to use, so my total program budget that I'm going to put in here is a $300,000 because it's 3 years and I'm going to use the Impact 100 over those 3 years. My program is $100,000 a year, right? Does that make sense? So otherwise it looks like if you only give us a 1-year budget and we're giving you $100,000, it looks like, okay, we're funding the whole thing, but we're really not because you're spreading it out over 3 years. So that's how we're trying to understand the full breadth of the project over the course of time that we are going to be funding it. Let me just pause there and make sure that was clear, because it's different than what we've done. For those of you who have applied in the past, we've not asked for this information in this way. So I just want to make sure it's clear what we're asking for. if you have a question about that, raise your hand or pop a question into the chat. All right, well, be thinking about that, and you can always ask about it later. All right, so if the total program, yes.
We do have one question in the chat right now. Is it okay to submit an LOI for a new project that is already partially funded, or do they prefer, if awarded, to be the initial lead funder?
I mean, Janet, do you want to weigh in on that?
Sure, absolutely, it's okay. We are often a part of a bigger project. We don't have to be the lead funder. We usually like it if it's something that our members can kind of get their arms around. For our money funding this portion of it, maybe it's this floor's renovation that allows this, that, and the other thing to happen, but we don't necessarily have to be the initial or the lead funder. We do want, it can't be completely complete before you receive our money. So the portion that we fund, we'd like to be not started until you receive our money and then completed during that period. Does that make any questions from that?
Peggy, yeah, I should have highlighted the 10-1. So yeah, so the grant, we will be granting these dollars 24. We'll find out in September if they are getting awarded the grant. So the money, we're saying it can be used over a 1 to 3 year period, starting no earlier than 10-1. Okay, you find out in September. We need some time to get the grant agreements in place. 10-1 would be the earliest it could start. You can make it fund expenses from the start date forward. That make sense? Okay. All right, let's move on. And then at the very end, we just have 2 questions that you just need to confirm that either the executive director and or the board president are aware that you're applying for this grant. And then if you have any pending legal conflicts, we want to know about that, and you'll declare that. And then you finally can submit. But let's say, so when you're in the application and you are unable to finish it, so this is when you click into the online application. If you're entering stuff and you're not able to finish it in that session, you can click save and continue, or save and continue later. So when you click that save and continue later, you will get this screen that says, here's a link to find this, to get here to this later. You need to enter your email address so that we can email you that link. Okay, so you'll enter your email address and you'll get a link in your email that you can then make sure you can find later so that you can get back in to that same application and not lose your work. However, what I would suggest, having done this many, many times, and I see Susan Roschke, and I know this is her practice because Susan is working at Cincinnati Works and used to work for me, is I would highly suggest using the Word template to do the entire application and then cutting and pasting it into the online application, which is quick and easy and you should be able to do in one sitting. So there is on our website, and I'll flip over to the website when we're done with the presentation and show you where things are, but there is a list of the application questions on the website. It's in Word form. So you just download the Word template, you answer all the questions, then you go into the online grant and fill it all out, cut and paste.
Hey, Peggy, can I interrupt you for just a second? You're breaking up just a little bit, not any major problem, but we're wondering if you turn your video off, if maybe it'll be more stable.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Moving on to the next question. Let's see. All right, so then when you finally get it all filled out and perfect, then you just press the submit button and you'll get this thank you for applying. And then you will get an email confirming that we received your application. So if you do not get that email, you'll want to reach out to me. I am the outreach at impact100.org. So you can email me questions or concerns along the way. You will get in the email, you will get an actual, like, it lists everything you put into the application. So it'll be a full document of what you actually submitted. And then that has to be done by noon on January 4th. So like I mentioned, everything's online. Hang on. At impact100.org, you click on the apply for a grant, and you'll complete your LOI. There's also some additional resources. Like I said, I'll flip over, when I'm done with the presentation, I'll flip over to the website and show you kind of where things are. But all the resources that you need are there. Coming up after this, you'll have a chance to explore the LOI, explore the information on the website. That may prompt additional questions. So next week, same time, same place, next week on Wednesday at 11 o'clock on Zoom, we will have an Impact for open Q&A. So that will be a chance for you to just come in and ask any questions that have arisen. Maybe you've started to prepare your budget, or maybe you've started to answer some questions and you have questions about how this works, or maybe you have questions about the overall process. Whatever comes up, please join us next Wednesday at 11 o'clock. The registration link is on the website, which I'll show you in a minute. And then after Thanksgiving, so 2 weeks from then, after Thanksgiving, on the 29th, also at 11, we have the 4 grant recipients from last year, or from this year, from September, who will be joining us in a panel discussion. And so they are going to be available to share their experiences in going through this process, their insights. They'll share a little bit about their projects and, which projects we selected. And it'll be an opportunity for you to ask them questions as well. So please join us for that session as well. Okay, I'm going to actually stop sharing this, and I'm going to go to the website and just show you some things there. Okay, so from the Impact 100 website, here's what you get when you go to impact100.org. You'll click on this Apply for Grants menu item, and that's where everything you need is. So here is the button to apply now. But before you do that, what I suggest is that you go down to here and you pull down this 2024 Impact 100 Letter of Intent Application Questions. That says it's a PDF, and if it is, I'm going to have that changed. It just got posted today. It should be a Word document, but if it is not, I'm going to get that changed to a Word document so that you can actually edit it. So that is a to-do for me. This presentation that I just went through today is also here. So that's the Letter of Intent training presentation. So those are 2 resources for you. Also, for reference, in past years, Grants Plus has done a presentation on how to write a compelling proposal. So if that may be information that you find worthwhile. They talk a lot about how to be short and concise, and sometimes that's not easy to do. So they can give you some best practices for that. And there's a worksheet that goes along with that. So those are some resources for you. This is some of the information that we went through about eligibility. And then over here is the schedule of that we also went through. To register for the next 2 sessions, you can register here, or you probably also got an email with those links as well. So I encourage you to register there. Also up here in the small fine print, don't overlook that. We have a application process overview, and that's where it goes through these phases of letter of intent, grant and application, financial review. Cycle, and these are our focus areas. And then we also have this frequently asked questions section. So you can click there and you can see questions. These are questions that have risen up in previous years that we just kind of keep a running list. So some of your questions may be here. There's quite a long list. So I encourage you to look through that. And again, if you don't have questions, if you don't see your questions answered here, please join us next Wednesday to ask in person. All right, I'm going to stop sharing now, and we'll just have general Q&A, and hopefully the y'all still there. I can't see. I know you can't see me, so if I'm still pinned, don't pin me.
We're still here. We're still here.
Okay. Are there any additional questions in the chat, or anybody have any questions? Feel free at this point to just jump in with your audio. If you have a question, just go ahead and speak out. Unmute yourself.
While we're waiting for questions, let me just add that I just want to thank all of you, right? This is an amazing group of nonprofits that have shown up for this training, and you're the ones doing the work, the hard work. And we are just so honored to be part of your journey. You're trusting to even think about our process, which we so appreciate, and all the work that you all are doing in the community. We just feel very honored to be part of that. So thank you.
We do have a question in the chat asking if we are considering applying for the program, which will be launched in Cincinnati, but travels to other areas of the country, would it be eligible, or would the grant only cover activities in the Cincinnati area?
Peggy, you want to take that, or you want me to?
You can go ahead.
I would say that we would prefer the grant cover activities in the region. The group of women are dedicated to putting money back in the community. So I think that it's not necessarily ineligible, but I think that it would not be as well received if it wasn't really impacting the community that we cover in the counties.
I'll add on to that. We did have an applicant from this, actually a finalist from this year, that was planning to initiate the program in Cincinnati and then later take it to other parts of the country. But all of the Impact 100 funds were going to be used for what was happening in Cincinnati. And so that's what I would say, you know, if that's what you're envisioning, that would be totally acceptable.
Yeah, Lewis has their hand up.
Yes, this is Brother Abdeen from Black Boys in Tech. First of all, thank you for this information session. Most of my questions were answered already, but I had one lingering question, and that is just clarification around what a site is. How do you all define a site? Because we don't have a office at the moment, but we do have a number of schools that we work with, and that for us is what we call a site. And so I was wondering, for a site visit, how you all defining a site?
Yeah, that's it's where the program is delivered, and we actually had another finalist from this year who didn't have a site either. We did our site visit at a place where they deliver services. In that case, it was in a school, but yeah, so that's how we consider a site. It could even just be in a conference room. We just want to meet you in person and meet your staff and kind of have an opportunity to talk face to face in an ad hoc manner, so that the site can be very flexible.
Understood. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Tristan?
Hi. Yes, I think you kind of answered it before. We are a very unique organization and it does not exist anywhere else. While we have our services here in Cincinnati and primarily Cincinnati, Greater Cincinnati residents, Ohio, Kentucky, Indiana, we do have individuals who will Zoom in or utilize our services. We've had someone drive from San Francisco on vacation, took 5 hours to come have an appointment. Is that something that we could not apply for this because we are open to the entire nation? We will send clothing out to people and we will do our support groups online for anyone who needs it.
So I would say that it's not an ineligibility for sure, but if you can make a claim that the majority of your services are conducted in these counties, you know, we're here to make an impact, you know, in the community. But if it also makes an impact in the rest of the world, party on, right? That's not a anything that would make you ineligible. But for sure, if the majority of your services are or for the folks that would be receiving them in person, that's what we would probably be looking more for.
Yeah, about 95%. So
yeah,
yep,
that's perfect.
Thanks.
We do have a question in the chat. If there is a collaborative submitting a request, would the amount still be 100,000, or is there an increase in the amount that can be funded to a collaborative project?
I think with our current model, the amount is 100,000. But I love the idea, and we've seen other collaborative giving organizations across the country do different things. And so I think let's take that and ruminate on it for future thoughts. But right now we have made a policy that we are granting $100,000 grants, and that can be to a collaborative or to individual organizations. I'll answer the other one here. How many LOIs do we typically receive? It varies, and COVID was a really strange time for everyone. But last year we received 102 LOIs. And we narrowed that down to 34 full grant invitations.
Another question in the chat. Could you share a few qualities of the most competitive LOIs? Things like priorities, projects serving youth, supporting historically underserved populations, track record of applicants, etc.
Can I? Yeah. So I would say it's really hard to answer because it's very broad, and I don't know that there are any other than kind of the 5 criteria we talked about and really kind of meeting those criteria. What I would suggest is that when you go to the website, there is also a tab called CR Impact, and it has a list of every grant recipient from the beginning of time. And so it has not only the list, but it has the project that they submitted, like a 1 or 2 sentence. And so that should give you a sense, at least, and a lot of these organizations you're probably going to recognize, and some of them you won't, because some of them might be new, small, little organizations that, so you'll see a variety of size, you'll see a variety of focus areas, you'll see a variety of regional coverage, of types of projects, et cetera. Hopefully that gives you a sense of it's really actually wide open.
Mm-hmm. And if you've met 450 women, you've met 450 women. Yeah. They are not similar, and we cannot even guess what is going to be of interest to each one of them and their respective grant review teams. So I think Peggy's suggestion of looking at past awardees is probably a good one, but we've had them in every one of the categories of the 5 focus areas. And what we love is that it's that variety of serving youth, serving seniors, serving workforce development. It's just, the environment, cultural things, the Kennedy Heights jazz, youth jazz, like that's a totally different kind of organization that hadn't gotten those kind of awards in the past. So it's really, you make a compelling case, and if it appeals to the women, that's your ticket.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
John Spencer, did you have a question?
I do, thank you. And thank you for doing this. The presentation is very thorough, and I want to echo what one of the other gentlemen said. I had a whole bunch of questions, and you answered almost all of them through the presentation. So that was fantastic. The one question I have is about the start of the time when you're going to spend the money, because you're awarding a grant in September. If you're, I don't know, some organizations operate in a calendar year, so you might not be start spending the money until January. If you're a performing arts organization, your season starts in September. You would have had to have your current season already planned and underway by the time the grant is awarded. You wouldn't be able to start spending the money maybe until for a year. Is there a limitation on how far out you begin the project?
not how far out you begin, but it's a 3-year cycle. So from October 1st for 3 years, anytime within that 3-year period is fine.
From the date of the award.
Yeah. So if you, so then if you're saying you wouldn't, if you start using it until September of the following year, then you might say, well, we're going to use that grant over 2 years or maybe over 1 year. Yeah. It just needs to be done within that 3-year period.
Okay.
And that happens a lot with our capital projects, because if they didn't know they were going to be awarded the funding, they might have to do a bunch of other stuff once they learn that they got the funding before they can even begin.
Absolutely.
So that's very common.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Last call for any questions, or last call for today, because we do have our information session on next Wednesday to have an open Q&A about any other things that have come up. So in the meantime, I recommend you taking a good look at the application questions in the Word document and seeing if you have any questions stemming from that.
If I could just add one thing, and that is that we've talked about this rigorous process, and there's 100 or so LOIs that come in. It narrows down to only 4. It might feel like, geez, that's a pretty narrow opportunity. But I would tell you the opportunity we had 140 women reviewing these LOIs last year. And just the opportunity to get your story out and what's happening in your nonprofit is a tremendous opportunity for you. We have had lots of examples of our members getting involved in some of these organizations as a result of just learning about them through the process. So again, thank you for going through the effort of doing it, and hopefully you will get more than just the opportunity to be awarded a grant, but have maybe some connections that you wouldn't have had otherwise.
One last question, if I could, Peggy.
Yeah.
The next 2 sessions, and at least one of them I have a conflict, which I'll try to change, but if I can't, will the recordings of those sessions be available also for later viewing?
Yes, they will. Yeah.
Thank you.
We'll get the recording for this one out today or tomorrow, and likewise with the other 2, we'll get them out within a day or 2 of the session happening.
Thank you very much.
Yes, and John, to think about the 2 that are upcoming, if you don't have any questions, you probably could skip the Q&A, but the panel is always really interesting because it's the 4 awardees from this past year and them talking about their process and how they approach different parts of it. And it could even be interesting for other grant applications that you have. So I would encourage you, if you can, to participate in the one on the 29th.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
All right. Well, if there are no other questions, then we will let you go for the day. Enjoy the rest of the week, and we'll be in touch. Thank you for coming.
Thank you, Peggy.
Thank you, Janet. Thank you, Laura.
Yes, thank you, Laura. And Jen.
And thank you, Jen.